所有跟王一博有过合作的导演都会对他大夸特夸。著名的纪录片导演、摄影师及攀岩运动员金国威在最新一期的访谈中谈到了和一博一起拍摄《探索心境》第2季。我们一起看一下这段采访，他是如何评价一博和自己的一些人生感悟。
Hello, Vogue Man. 我的名字是 Jimmy Chun. I've climbed all over the world, but China has a very special place in my heart. My parents are both from China, and I grew up looking at mountain landscape paintings of China, and it always captured my imagination. 3 words that I would describe China would be vibrant, dynamic, and beautiful. You know, I didn't know what to expect to work with Wang Yibo. I would say that Wang Yibo as a person, as a human being, far exceeded my expectations. He is incredibly thoughtful, smart, observant. I think he's had so many experiences in his life for someone his age that he has a certain wisdom that's beyond his years. I really, really enjoyed spending time with him. I think he's incredibly talented at anything that he sets his mind towards. I was really, really impressed with him. I mean, how quickly he picked up climbing and what level he was climbing at for having just started climbing was really impressive. Growing up, I always had a pretty wild imagination. I think I was always looking for something adventurous in my life. And when I first found climbing, you know, climbing really captured my imagination because there was always an adventure to be had. It had risk. It pushed you physically and it pushed you mentally. And I've used climbing as sort of a vehicle to see the world and go explore some of the wildest landscapes on the planet. It always inspired me that these world-class athletes were doing some of the most unbelievable athletic feats I could ever imagine in some of the most beautiful places on the planet. That inspired me to make films and tell their stories. At the high end of filmmaking and the high end of climbing and skiing and these adventure sports, they're both very challenging. A lot of the work I do is in high risk and high stakes environments. So there's always an element of risk. Some of them are life and death situations, some very close calls while working in these environments, including getting caught in an avalanche or being very near avalanches. You really have to be focused as an athlete first and then a filmmaker second. I think making Meru, when we climbed the first ascent of Meru, to be able to climb it and to be able to film and eventually make a documentary really is something that I worked towards and put a lot of time and effort into. Spending 4 years filming with Alex for Free Solo was an achievement that I'm really proud of. It was supporting Alex in his dream to be able to free solo El Cap. The same goes for our recent ascent of the north face of Everest. You know, a big part of my role is being a filmmaker to tell these stories. You know, I spent 5 years working with Jim Morrison, getting these expeditions financed, getting the permits, putting together the team. I think people probably don't really understand how much of the role is just being a good friend and being someone that believes in them as important as being the filmmaker that documents the story. I mean, I always have different ambitions. You know, a big part of my life is just to continue learning and taking everything I've learned in the past and being able to, you know, parlay it into something new. I have a lot of aspirations as a filmmaker for more narrative films. I think there's a lot more for me to learn there. There's a lot of things that I've learned in the past on every single project that I like to bring to a new project. And so there's always something that I feel like I haven't done that I'd like to explore. And narrative films is a new frontier for me. I've made one narrative film called Naiad, but I think and hope there's quite a few more films that I'll be working on. Well, there are two things that inspired me about making this film. One was the two characters in the film, Jim Morrison and Hillary Nelson, both extraordinary human beings with a very challenging history that I thought had kind of universal themes. You know, they were both people that inspired me over the years, and they were both also very close to me. So it was their stories and what they were doing that really inspired me to make a film about them. The second thing is the super direct route on the north face of Everest, which in our world of mountaineering and ski mountaineering is, in my mind, one of the most iconic and difficult routes on the biggest face on the tallest mountain in the world. And I think it's, captured people's imaginations for decades. It's beautiful and it's stunning, and it had never been skied before. And so when Jim and Hillary had set their sights on trying to climb and ski the direct north face, I knew that the combination of those two pieces would make a really extraordinary film. And I think this film is probably a culmination of everything I've learned about filmmaking. It's a story about love. The stakes were life and death. This was such an audacious dream, kind of a seemingly impossible objective. I think for me, it is just like this climb and ski descent were the ultimate objectives. This time last year, I had just come back from a failed attempt on the north face of Everest, but I was rock climbing around right now. When you suffer a big failure on a big objective, you kind of have to shake it off and keep moving forward. And the best way I know how to do that is to spend time outside, climbing, being in the mountains, being with people that I love and care about, and enjoying Mother Nature. If tomorrow was the end of the world, I would definitely want to spend my last day with friends and family, my kids, doing something fun, going skiing, going climbing, something that would take our minds off the fact that tomorrow's the last day. And it's my favorite way to interact and, spend quality time with the people that I care for. Setting really difficult goals for yourself and taking that step every single day to achieve it. And that mindset is the same mindset that I've applied to everything I've done. I never studied photography, but I wanted to shoot for National Geographic. And I spent years and years taking photographs and working towards it. And after many, many years, I was able to achieve, shooting a cover for National Geographic. I'd never studied film before. And I just applied that mentality. And it's really incredible what you can achieve when you use that mentality. Staying healthy has a lot to do with what you eat and with what you do on a daily basis physically. You start setting some small goals and start building from those little small goals, and you can really maintain a healthy lifestyle.